So WrestleMania 32 is now officially over and done with, and there is a lot to talk about here today with the main event, the pre-show, and everything in between, guys. Welcome to the WrestleMania 32 review. I'm here today joined by Emperor Big D, Geekdom 101, and we have quite a bit to talk about here. So if you guys haven't seen WrestleMania 32, either tune out of the video or just fast forward because this video will contain lots and lots of spoilers if you guys haven't seen WrestleMania. And I'll start off by saying this. This was one of the weirdest WrestleManias I've seen in probably ages. And
Yeah.
Danny Geekdom, I want to know from you, from your perspective as a wrestling fan, how did you feel about this show from its entirety? Because I know that there were certain things that didn't fit the mold of what WrestleMania once was. And people would often go back and say, well, the classics were always WrestleMania 17, 18, 19, and stuff like that. So I want to know from you, from a wrestling perspective, from a wrestling fan's perspective, were you satisfied by the end result of this WrestleMania?
Well, not to sound overconfident. By the way, I do find it funny that every time you and I get together, it's never about Dragon Ball except for once. It's always about Star Wars or wrestling. That always makes me laugh. But people are like, dude, do a video with Unreal about Dragon Ball. It's like every time we get together, it's about something else. I would consider myself more of a wrestling historian. I'm sure that a lot of people that are sub to you and I know me from the Dragon Ball. You know, I'm a Dragon Ball historian too, but I love pro wrestling. I grew up with it since I was 5, and I've studied the history of the business, studied the history of international business and what's going on now. And as a fan, as a historian, this was, like you said, one of the weirdest shows ever. Very weird. I didn't hate the entire show, but the show was extremely mediocre and lackluster, and we're gonna get into why. Just for a show that was so big and so hyped up and got so much media attention, the big attendance, which we'll get into, it was a huge disappointment to me, and we'll talk about why as we go through. I'd rather just hold off because if we talk about it too soon, people are gonna be like, "Oh, well, he's complaining." No, no, no. There's good and bad to this show, but it did not live up to it being the biggest WrestleMania ever,
Oh,
without
absolutely,
question.
absolutely. And I think that I would say that this is possibly the longest WrestleMania because it ended almost near midnight from the pre-show up. So let's start off with the WWE kickoff
It
pre-show.
no, it was the longest
No, it
officially.
absolutely was, dude.
Seven hours total.
I remember sitting there, I'm texting you, I'm like, holy shit, like this is going on like forever, especially with like certain segments. So starting off with the kickoff show, we had the United States title match on the line, Kalisto versus Ryback, and I actually missed this one, so I didn't really know what happened. But
It was a
I
good
want to know
match.
from you, was it?
Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun match. It was what I was expecting, man. Kalisto was doing luchador spots around Ryback, and Ryback was doing kind of the the power stuff. There was a cool spot where he picked up Kalisto over his head in a press slam from the outside and then walked up the steps while holding Kalisto. Really, really enjoyed it. The finish was Kalisto scored a pinfall. What happened was they went to the corner, and Ryback's trying to pull Kalisto from the turnbuckle, and he accidentally rips off the turnbuckle for the second turnbuckle, like in the corner. And then what happens is Kalisto then does a drop toe hold when Ryback charges him
Right.
head first into the exposed turnbuckle. Selena Del Sol, 1, 2, 3. Ryback took most of the match. Now, quick notes about this: the stadium was pretty empty during this match. The fans knew the show was starting at 5 p.m., but what happened was they delayed this match a bit because there was issues going on with the Wi-Fi in the building, and they couldn't scan certain people's tickets. Not to mention that one thing about Cowboy Stadium that a lot of people don't know is that your ticket says what gate you go in. If you go into the wrong gate, they will not let you in. You have to go to the correct gate. So in other stadiums and in other arenas, it doesn't matter what gate you use, but at Cowboy Stadium, it does matter because it's so big and it's like a
That
maze in
sounds like a
there.
hassle just getting
It's
around the
a
building.
Dude, I had friends who didn't even get into like half an hour into the show because of that. Like it was pretty empty, but I thought it was a good match. And I would have liked it if it was on the actual main show because it was a fun little house show match.
I mean, for me, when I first saw this match, I mean, I was just thinking, I'll just absolute filler because there was no story. It was more like an exhibition. You had Kalisto and Ryback. Sure, I mean, they had like about a week of build up or whatnot, but it was what it was for the most part. I think Kalisto is a very very talented athlete. I remember watching him on the Indies and stuff. Like he's a great talent and he's a
Oh,
great
he's
asset to the
amazing.
business.
Samurai Del Sol's incredible.
Yes, yes, he was. And I remember watching his matches with Ricochet and just performing in PWG and whatnot. He's a very talented athlete, and not taking away anything from Ryback, but I just felt like in an essence this match didn't really make that much sense. But it was what it was. You have to had the big guy little guy kind of concept going on. So we had the United States title match on the line, and Kalisto retains, and then we moved on from there to the Divas tag team match, which consisted of Brie Bella, Natalya, and Alicia Fox. Alongside Paige going up against Lana, Team Bad, and I forgot which the last team was, honestly. But Brie Bella won. She won via submission. I think that was a kind of like an homage to Daniel Bryan, because there's a big rumor going around that she is planning on retiring very, very soon. She wants to be with her husband. There's a lot of things going on with Daniel Bryan right now.
There's actually some rumors that I can't talk about on the air about him that and her that are going around Dallas. I can't really talk about it live on the air. It's very personal stuff, but we'll see. Let's just say that we'll see what happens. How about that?
Absolutely. And I would you say that that's well deserved, at least for her, to have like that one moment to where she has a victory at WrestleMania and then she can just go off on the high horse and just be gone after WrestleMania, because I feel like this is the last we're going to see from her. I think she's contributed enough in essence. Her sister, she went through surgery and whatnot. She's recovering.
She came out as as the first surprise of the evening.
Absolutely. And we know with her claiming the victory over, Lana and Team Bad, I think that it's well deserved, and I think that she is going to be leaving relatively soon to be with her husband, because obviously Daniel Bryan, even right now, he's going through a lot. I mean, he lost his father.
There are things going on.
Yeah,
with him.
There are a lot. He's not. I mean, there are signs. I believe there are signs of depression, because he really loved this business.
You're very smart. Very smart.
It's sad, but what are your thoughts on this match in particular?
It was dude. Okay, first of all, they all looked good. Everybody knows that Lana has a great body. She actually looked okay for her first match. Eva Marie also looked a little bit better. She got booed. She did like one move, a sliced bread, and that was it.
Yes.
She was fine for that one move. I guess you would kind of know more about this because like I said, I'm a wrestling historian. You're an actual in-ring performer.
Yes.
How long do you think because Eva Marie's been in developmental for a while now. How long do you think on average, in your experience, does it take for somebody to actually who's somewhat athletic pick it up? Because I've heard 5 years. I've heard longer.
Well, I mean, like, you have to first grasp the concept as to what you're doing. You can't just, like, especially if you're down there in Orlando and you're training in the WWE facility, you can't really just be there and spend time there and not come out learning anything. And I just feel as if there's somewhat of a lack of passion within her, because, she's an incredibly gorgeous woman. I mean, not taking that away, but when it comes to in-ring, performance, when it comes to psychology, when it comes to, trying to get whatever it is you need to get over with the crowd and just trying to tell a good story, I feel as if her mind isn't necessarily there. She's just there to like do the moves and just get it over and done with. I don't know her as a person. I don't know her as an individual. I'm pretty sure she's a nice lady, but like, to me, I just feel like she lacks that passion to learn, because there are women out there such as Natalya, and you had Bailey and stuff. These women really actually they genuinely care about what they do in the ring, because they want to be able to tell those stories. They want to be able to grasp the concept of psychology, and just be able to perform at the highest caliber they can. And for me, Eva Marie's been there for such a long time. I felt like I still feel as if she has that platform to learn as much as she can, more than anyone else. I mean, I wish I had that platform to sit there and learn from the experienced veterans that are there now. But if she doesn't want to learn, that's on her, because again, I think it all boils down to laziness in a way. She has the body, she has the looks, and sometimes that can get you over. So
yeah. Well, I mean, Lana didn't really do much, but she had a good presence, so people did pop for it. It was a fine match, maybe a little bit too long. So one thing I wanted to make note of is Nikki Bella came out and she hugged Brie, and it got a kind of a decent pop. So Nikki will be around no matter what. I did want to make some notes here, some quick notes for you on the 100,000 thing. So Renee Young was talking about more than 100,000. Mauro Ranallo also said more than 100,000. Vince said it on Raw. Here's the reality for there's a lot of casual wrestling fans that don't know this. The actual attendance in that building was not 100,000. WWE very often, in fact, every single year at WrestleMania, inflates the number, sometimes by 10,000, sometimes by 20,000. The actual attendance, from what we understand, based on last week's ticket sales, were anywhere between 85 to 90,000 tickets. So the building had about 85 to 90,000 people, but they already had in their heads they were going to announce 100,000 building. Like, basically what they do, it's a work. They already have a number in their head, and if they don't hit that number, they're still going to use that number. However, when they do the conference calls, what will end up happening is if you listen to the conference calls, right, the stockbrokers conference calls, and you break down the gross, you can figure out with a little bit of math, you can figure out exactly how many tickets were sold. Dave Meltzer usually does that every year. So we're going to get a real number probably within a month, maybe 2 months of what the actual final number was. But they, before the show even started, they had in their heads it was going to be 100,000, and that's what they said. Real quick, another note, just real quick. 93,173 was the previous record for WrestleMania 3. That is also a fake number. Zane Breslov, who worked in Detroit, who was the primary booker for the buildings in Detroit, he worked with both WWF and WCW, was quoted as saying the actual number for WrestleMania 3 was 78,000, not 93,000. So even though the company legitimately broke the record tonight did break the company record, 85 to 90,000, it's not 100,000. Just wanted to make that clear to everybody.
And mind you, the stadium looked packed as hell. But again, sometimes that can be a mere reflection or just a mere smoke and mirrors as to what really is in the arena. So
Well, yeah, there's nosebleeds you can't even see and
no,
stuff like that.
absolutely. I'm pretty sure there were empty seats in there. You know, you can't deny that. I mean, but moving on from the tag team match, we had the final
The
tag team match of the
Lita.
pre-show.
Well, you
Oh
forgot
yes,
you forgot
Lita.
the Lita.
Yes,
Yeah.
Lita announced
Lita. Yeah. Go
the
ahead.
women's championship. I honestly, I'll say this. When she said, the first time ever women's WWE Women's Championship,
She's so
yeah, I
wrong.
was like, wait, what? I mean, what about your era when you were there? You had a women's championship, but whatever. The title
Yeah, she
itself,
was the champion.
exactly. The title
Yeah.
itself, however, I did not like that at all. I mean, I get where they're coming from, but Christ Almighty, me and my friend just looked at each other. We're just like, it's the exact same thing as the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. So, like, what are your thoughts on the title and the concept of them changing it from Divas back to the women's title?
I like it. I hated the butterfly belt. It looks like an open vagina. I cannot stand that belt. I'm sorry, I hate it. And the idea of calling them divas has always been insulting because they're trying to get this quote diva revolution over. I'm not like a feminist, and I'm not like one of those PC police. But if they want to have the women being taken seriously, they need to call it the WWE women's title, even though it was nowhere near being the first one. I think the belt looks nice. It's basically the male belt with a white strap and a red background. Same thing. It's same
Absolutely,
thing.
it's the exact same replica belt. I was just like, wow, this is new. I mean, fuck, you're gonna have Charlotte as the world heavyweight champion here.
It was
But
cool, yeah.
no,
And then the
it was, and
Usos.
it was actually pretty cool seeing Lita there because I mean, she looks great as always. I don't
Yeah.
know, like for me at least, the first thing that popped up was CM Punk, but we'll get into that a little later. So we had the final tag team match of the pre-show, which was the Usos versus the Dudleys, and honestly, I didn't feel like I didn't feel as if this was needed. The Usos got genuinely booed. For whatever the case being, whether they're related to Roman Reigns or whatnot, but there were certain things within the match that didn't really make sense. Like especially like people were just they were just ecstatic when Bubba Ray and Devon were about to hit the 3D in the end, and then the Usos turned it out around on them and they did the double splashes. I'm a big fan of Bully Ray from TNA.
Oh, I love Bully
Dude,
Ray.
like when he was talking trash to the Usos during the match, I loved it because that was like a reflection as to who he was in TNA, and I think that hopefully within God's graces one day they do bring that out of Bubba Ray Dudley because he does have like that factor to be a great heel, but we saw a little bit of that in this match, but I wanted to get like your thoughts on this match because I thought it was decent for the most part. It definitely wasn't the best match out of either team. But what are your thoughts on this before getting into the main show here?
Well, it didn't really feel like a blow off to me. The Usos to me are kind of a stale act. In my opinion, I think it's kind of a stale act. But I thought they had to do the match, and I thought it was fine. The finish was kind of predictable. They brought the tables in, and then the Usos put the Dudleys through them. It was fine, but the whole thing about the Dudleys not being a nostalgia act and then losing to the Usos, I mean, I guess the idea is to give them the rub, but I just think the Usos themselves are a little bit stale. I think that the New Day are kind of the new top babyface tag team at this point, especially after tonight's entrance. If you're a Dragon Ball fan,
Oh my God,
um,
dude.
yeah, we'll talk about that when we go in. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I thought it was just like it was more like just a nothing match. Like it was fine, but it wasn't like anything great or anything. It wasn't like anything crazy.
It was just there. But again, just I like the pre-shows are always going to be pre-shows. I mean, with the exception of like a very few because there were a few pre-shows like within the years that have been genuinely good. But this was what it was. We ended off the pre-show. We got into the main card, the main show. I love the opening intro for this year's WrestleMania. I felt as if it was really, really good.
Fantastic. Yeah,
It
one thing
was
I will say, let's talk about that real quick. The production on the show was fantastic as always. The entrances were great. The pyro was fantastic. The lighting, we can't take anything away from the production team. Every single year they knock it out of the park. Every single year.
absolutely, dude. And I just love the concept of the opening package, how we reflected back to the first WrestleMania, and then we went on through the years. It brings back a lot of memories, and it brings back a lot of childhood moments to where we used to be a kid there and you used to watch, and you remember these things. And after showing these highlights and whatnot, it made me feel like a kid again. So that was great. I mean, here's the thing about the pyro, right? I mean, this might just be me, but I always felt like the best pyro out of any WrestleMania was WrestleMania 23, because the way they just set it up, it was just insane. And I've always had like this thing about pyro. I was just like, it's WrestleMania, dude, go all out, right? I
I
mean,
agree with you.
you have the money, you have like the production, you can make like the intro of the biggest show of the year. You can make it look very, very, like just huge in stature, like in terms of like what you want to do with pyro and whatnot. We saw towards the end of the show how well they can do with pyro, but then again, that's in the nighttime too, so like pyro stands out more. But within the stadium itself, it was decent enough. We opened up with the Intercontinental ladder match featuring Kevin Owens, the champion, versus The Miz, Dolph Ziggler, Sami Zayn, Zack Ryder, Sin Cara, and Stardust. Now, this was a very good opener to a WrestleMania, but the end result was very, very shocking. And I want to know your
Very
thoughts on this,
weird.
because I popped. Like, the inner me popped when I saw, Steen, Generico, Owens, and Zayn right there slugging it
Me
out, because
too.
I was just like, dude, they've been working like for this moment since they were in Ring of Honor, since they were doing things on over in the Indies and stuff, and they had that moment.
PWG.
They can actually say they started their feud off in the Indies and they've built their way all the way up towards WrestleMania. I mean,
Yes.
even if it was for like just a moment, you felt it. I mean, for those who've been watching the Indies and following their careers, you would know. But for those who are just casuals, obviously you wouldn't have like that much of an understanding. All the only concept you have is from
Is the
Cole.
NXT feud? Yeah.
Yeah, Cole was saying all their former best friends and whatnot, but it stems deeper than that. So I want to get your thoughts on this match and how you felt about the end result.
I thought, okay, first and foremost, I actually wanted to get your thoughts on some of the on ladder matches, okay? But I'll get to that in a minute. Just my quick thoughts are the match was spectacular, like we all thought it was going to be. Lots of spots. I don't think it was as good as last year's ladder match. And to be perfectly honest, I feel, again, this is what I wanted to ask you about. I think WWE's doing too many of these. I think these multi-man ladder matches are becoming like a little too prevalent. We have one at WrestleMania. We have one at Money in the Bank. And
Yeah.
we're probably going to get one at TLC. Sometimes just a one-on-one. I think the problem with ladder matches is that ladder matches nowadays, the more the time goes by, the more stale they get. And you can only raise the bar a certain level. And I think that what we're going to start seeing now is we're going to start seeing a lot of middle of the road ladder matches. We've already seen everything you could possibly do in a ladder match through the past, 20 years or so, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's hard to work a ladder match now. Like I feel like if I were a worker, I'd have trouble, and that's why I wanted to ask you working a ladder match because number one, you're going in there, you're gonna get hurt. You know it's gonna hurt because you can't, no matter what, you can't fake, even if you know how to bump, and you know this better than me, you can't fake landing on a ladder that has ridges on it, all
Oh no,
right?
absolutely not. You'll get totaled.
You will have bruises all over your back. You going into this thing knowing you're gonna get hurt. And it's a bitch. Now, one thing I will say is the finish was was Zack Ryder winning. I like Zack Ryder a lot. I felt that Zack Ryder winning was good. However, the booking going into this was absolutely atrocious because Zack Ryder has not won a wrestling match in months, and they threw him in there as a replacement for Neville, who maybe he was supposed to win originally. And I don't like the idea of a guy being the Intercontinental Champion who hasn't even won a match in months. I think they should have built up momentum for him. Same thing when we talk about Dean Ambrose later on. They should have protected him a little bit more. So it's basically a jabroni with the IC belt, and either he's going to drop it tomorrow night on Raw to Kevin Steen, or he'll hold on to it for a little while. I don't know, but I don't like the fact that they gave him the belt because the booking is bad. That being said, I like Zack Ryder. This is nothing against Zack Ryder, the guy. It's just that when you're gonna put the belt on somebody, you have to protect them. That's part of how you book these guys to be credible.
No, absolutely. I mean, but why do you think they decided to go with Ryder than anyone else within that matchup?
I don't know. I think to shock the people. I think to shock the people. I really do.
Because I thought coming out of this that either Owens was going to retain or Zayn was going to win. But when I
Yeah, I
saw
thought
the Miz
exactly. Me
climb
too.
up, I was like, all right, there's got to be something going on here because the Miz can't win. And when I saw Ryder push him off and he claimed the belt, I was like, you know what? In a way, he deserves it because he's been. I mean, the guy has been going. He ate a lot of shit. Like he took in like truckloads of shit throughout the years, and the guy has paid his dues. So just giving him that moment, he even said it himself. If he dies tomorrow, or like anything else, he can go out in style. He can go out and happy because he had his WrestleMania moment, and he's been striving his entire life for that. I get that. And people like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Dolph Ziggler, I don't think people would have to worry too much about them because they will also have their WrestleMania moments down the road. Maybe not today, but definitely tomorrow because those guys are going to be around. Not entirely sure how long Zack Ryder's going to be around and whatnot because people get let go, people get fired here and there, so you're not really you can't really say, oh, I'm going to be around for like the next so and so often because you never really know what may happen. But people like Owens, people like Zayn, Ziggler, people like that, I do believe like they're gonna have more WrestleMania moments coming up, down the road or whatnot. But in terms of this match itself, it looked very brutal. I wouldn't say it's my favorite. And going back to what you said about the concept of ladder matches, I agree. I think that they ought to keep the concept of that multi-man ladder match, but only one time a year. I think that they ought to incorporate the Money in the Bank briefcase ladder match only at WrestleMania because when they first had it at WrestleMania 21, it meant something because here you have a bunch of guys trying to like beat, claw, scratch, and murder each other for like this briefcase that guarantees them a contract for the title. And that meant more than anything else because it led to an unpredictability factor to where anybody can cash in at any given moment. So let's say, for example, right, hypothetically speaking, let's say they had the Money in the Bank ladder match tonight and they had Kevin Owens win, right? Towards the end of the main event, they could have had this thing going on where whoever won Triple H Reigns, whoever were to win, you would have someone like Kevin Owens interfere with that briefcase and cash it in because again nobody would be expecting that. But in a way, some people would look at that and say, oh well, we have something to reflect on, and that being Seth Rollins when he cashed in, which was great when he did that last year. But in terms of like this match in particular, it was for the IC title. It was what it was. It was a very entertaining match. I think all men.
I honestly, I probably would have preferred a Steen Generico one-on-one match.
Oh yeah, oh dude,
but that's my opinion.
everybody wanted that. But of course, I mean, in a way, you kind of saw where it was coming from because you felt as if it was gonna happen. But then, I also felt as if like they wanted to give these other individuals, their WrestleMania matches, their WrestleMania moments. That way, they can say they've been there because in a way, it's to get more guys noticed. It's to get more guys, credibility for being athletes. So if they were to have Owens versus Sami Zayn one-on-one, yeah, you'll give them the limelight, but then you're gonna have a truckload of people in the back that aren't gonna have like their spotlight as well. I mean, there's only so much you can do throughout the pre-show that I guess they're trying to fit as many people as they can within WrestleMania sometimes, but but like how like well in essence like who would you have wanted to win this match in
Well,
particular?
like you said, Owens or Zayn. I think the idea of Zayn winning and Owens being pissed off about it works, or the idea of like Sammy's about to get it and then Owens like low blows him or something and then gets it and then they had their one-on-one feud, which I think will still happen anyways. That's who I thought was gonna win. I think Ziggler's going down that Shelton Benjamin road where he's gonna be mid-card for life and never get pushed. The Miz, same thing. Stardust might get repackaged. He got a huge pop for that Dusty Rose ladder, by the way. I thought that was awesome. Sin Cara's pretty much a prelim guy. So I think that Sammy and Kevin Owens could be right there in the mid card having a great feud, and they're probably still gonna have that feud. But Zack Ryder's the IC champion. I mean, maybe they'll change their minds tomorrow. Maybe they hold on to it for a while again. We don't know, but it's unusual. And it began a night of very unpredictable booking. But the problem is that unpredictable does not always mean good, but sometimes it does, and there's different examples of that. So
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. And then we having the end result of Zack Ryder being the new IC champion. So moving on from there, we had I do want to say the singles match between Jericho and Styles. That was up next?
yes, that was next. Yep.
We had Jericho and Styles. Now we talked
Match
about
number
this.
4.
What was that?
Match
Yeah,
number
match
4.
number 4 for
But
the
between
yes,
them.
yes.
Yeah.
Now this actually, I enjoyed this match so much only because we had two guys, right, that have worked their entire careers to be to be where they are currently right now. Especially Jericho because he's been there. He's been through the limelight of going through the like the indies and whatnot, going through WCW, and then Jericho paid his dues. And for AJ Styles, like I kind of reflected that off Jericho because Styles went to Ring of Honor and TNA and New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he also paid his dues to be where he's at. And I was actually very happy because I can't really recall any other superstar that made their debut within the same year as their WrestleMania debut. And I was so ecstatic about that because he came in at the Rumble, he had his moment, and now the guy can retire tomorrow and say, hey, look, I'm happy because I was at WrestleMania. I performed at WrestleMania, and I'm pretty sure that
Yes.
this eats away at someone like Dixie Carter and stuff because there's a lot of things happening that are affecting that other company as well. But this
Yeah.
match was very, very fun. I honestly expected Styles to win, but we had Y2J who picked up the victory with a ferocious code breaker off the top. When Styles was going for his springboard elbow, and then he just caught him right in midair. It was really, really fun. This match, I would say, was very, very reflecting off of like New Japan style because we saw like a little bit of like those striking and like that strong style applied onto the match itself. But I want to get your thoughts on this because there were certain people that were really upset about this because I was looking at certain forums and I was reading some comments. People were just like, oh man, Vince is trying to bury AJ. This like
Oh.
grandest burial of AJ. I mean, AJ Styles is a great athlete, but I don't think that this buries him at all because like the guy he had a lot of offense. He did what he did in the match, and it's not like he walked in there and got slaughtered. Like he had an amazing performance, and
Exactly.
as an
The two,
individual, he
two,
did what he had to do. So I want to get your thoughts on this.
Well, first of all, too many wrestling fans throw the word buried around and have no idea what it means. See, one thing that I don't like about wrestling fans nowadays is that, and you as a wrestler, I don't know if you'll agree with me or not, but I think a lot of wrestling fans throw around those insider terms they read on the internet, the carny terms from
Yeah.
150 years of pro wrestling. They throw these terms around like they know what they're talking about, and they don't. And somebody's probably out there wondering, well, how do you know? Well, I know because I've spoken to people in the business, interviewed people in the business, and studied the business my entire life. So I can speak those terms and know what the fuck I'm talking about. Styles did not get buried. However, there is something to be said about him not winning. Now, my idea was that Jericho winning is going to lead to a fifth and final match at Extreme Rules, and that's where Styles will finally put Jericho to rest for this run. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'm not. I felt that the finish somewhat made Styles look bad because it was a little bit predictable that he would get caught in that move. He's kind of a goof. It's kind of a goofy finish. That being said, though, the match was very good. Jericho sold very well. AJ sold very well. I didn't like that Jericho kicked out of the Styles Clash because that move had been protected for 2 years in Japan.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, when he was in New Japan, they were like, if he hits that move, you're done. Because he was actually injuring guys, which is unfortunate. But the match I thought was very good. I didn't think it was a classic. I thought it was very, very good. A couple of rough spots here and there. He hit the springboard 450. We saw the Pele kick. We saw all of the classic AJ spots. We saw Jericho bust out some of his classic spots. It was a fun little match. But I definitely can understand a wrestling fan being upset with the finish because here's the reality, all right? Even if AJ wins the feud at Extreme Rules, the biggest match is always remembered at WrestleMania. So in the record books, Chris Jericho defeated AJ Styles at WrestleMania, and it's a bad precedent. In my opinion, it is a bad precedent to bring a guy in with a lot of hype who legitimately sold tickets and moved the needle. Because when he came in, house show attendance went up and he got the biggest reaction on all the house shows. AJ Styles, no matter what you want to say about he was in TNA his whole career, this and that, the problem with wrestling now is that WWE has pissed away a lot of the casual audience and the majority of what's left are hardcore fans. A big chunk of the audience is hardcore fans. That's a
Right.
very big chunk. It's a lot of people, okay? There's a lot of wrestling fans out there and they know who AJ is. So he was getting the biggest pops. He's moving the needle and he's in a feud with Jericho, who, again, Jericho's like Dean Ambrose. He hasn't won a feud in a long time. So, to me, I can kind of see the complaint about Jericho not winning at this WrestleMania. I think it would have been a great moment if he came in and won his first WrestleMania. Him not winning it does leave somewhat of a bad taste in my mouth. But the match was good, and they'll probably do one more at Extreme Rules is my guess.
Do you agree with the end result of that match with Jericho picking up the win?
What?
No,
Yeah,
I said, do you agree with the end result of Jericho picking up the win over AJ Styles?
I was just talking about that just now.
I mean, but
That
like, again, like I remember like once it must have been like maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes after the match, people were very, very upset. I get it. I mean, AJ Styles, he's not the most charismatic individual. I mean, his charisma, on the mic especially isn't really all there. But as an athlete, as a performer, he's great, dude.
Well,
And
no, well that's it. All depends on what they're gonna do with him. No, I think AJ should have won this match, but at the same time, if I was booking, I wouldn't have had them wrestle 4 other times.
people, yeah,
I wouldn't.
people were
Yeah,
just like, oh man, this kind of killed the vibe because the whole heel babyface aspect, it makes AJ look weak. I completely disagree. I think that whatever comes out of this is gonna make AJ look very strong because again, I mean, I agree they shouldn't have had 4 or 5 matches prior to this because it kind of kills off like that that surprise momentum because like we already knew like going into this how they were gonna like compete against one another, even though there were certain things that were different because we saw how they competed on Raw and all that kind of stuff. So that it was already there. But for what it was worth, I mean, I was very surprised when Jericho kicked out of the Styles Clash because, as you said,
and he's done that before.
yeah, in New Japan, dude, like every single time AJ hit that move, that was it. Like you're you're you're,
And,
you're staring up at the ceiling, dude.
and one thing you do have to understand about WWE booking is that they do things subconsciously to kind of, and I'm not gonna go too deep into this. I could talk about this for 2 hours, but they do subconsciously do things that kind of hurt people purposely. And having somebody kick out of the Styles Clash to me is a huge mistake. Same thing with having Jericho win at Mania because here's the reality: even if AJ beats him 5 more times, Jericho won at WrestleMania, and everybody remembers WrestleMania, and
Yep.
that to me is a big thing. Again, the match is good, but it did kind of rub me the wrong way that Styles did not pick up the win here. I thought that it would have been better. Again, the fact that he's actually over is what makes the difference, and it's not going to help him that he lost. It won't hurt him, but it won't help him either.
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, especially when Styles came out, I mean, the entire arena went nuts. They were just chanting his name. I mean, that must be a very good feeling for him because the guy busted his ass for years, man, to get to where he's at now. And that's, all of the respect and love to him for that. Moving on to the fifth match of the show, I do want to say it was between what was it, the handicap match or the no holds barred match?
Wait, I'm sorry. Well, the next match was New Day and League of
Yeah, it
Nations.
was the handicap match coming out of the giant box of bootios as as
Yes.
Saiyans.
They had
Now,
Saiyan armor. Yes,
all right,
Dragon
now
Ball Z Saiyan armor. And no, not just that. Xavier had a tail and he
yes,
had the
and
Goku hair.
Cole specifically said, I think he
Yep.
looks like Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. Now, here's the thing: some people might, refute and they might say otherwise because there were certain people that believe that they look like Power Rangers, and I can kind of see why. So, like, what do you have to say about those who are just like, oh, it's Power Ranger outfits, a bunch of White Rangers and stuff?
They don't know what Dragon Ball is because you could say that all you want to, except when you see Xavier with the tail. Plus, they did the fusion pose on Raw as well, and to me,
And the
that's
hair.
kind of a big thing. Yeah, that in the hair, yeah, and the tail, and that's what I'm saying. No, it was Dragon Ball. I mean, it was Dragon Ball. That was the entire point of it. So Dragon Ball is represented 2 years in a row at WrestleMania. First by Ronda Rousey at 31, and with the Vegeta shirt, and now we have the New Day doing it. I thought it was
Yo,
awesome.
that's the
I got
influence.
150 texts. I got 150 texts about this one, bro.
That's the
I got a shitload
influence.
of
That's
texts.
the
Yeah.
influence of Dragon Ball, man. Like you have wrestlers coming out there as Saiyans. Like I was so happy, dude. And
Oh,
especially
I was
Xavier
marking
Woods, man.
out, bro.
Like, dude, he has so much charisma. I think it went with it. Now, I would have loved to see like one of them either power up or like kind of like shoot for like a Kamehameha Galley gun or something. That would have that would have popped me like no tomorrow. But they went up against the League of Nations, and the League of Nations won,
Yes.
and
Four
quite
on three.
surprising after. But what are your thoughts on this match?
I thought it was just a nothing match. I was mostly marking out over the intro. I thought it was fine. I don't know. I kind of feel like the New Day should have won. I'm sorry. The New Day, I'm okay with them losing, even though they're super over. I'm okay with them losing if they're going to do rematches later on. But again, it just goes to show, like, you notice that the trend on this show is that the up and comers were losing a lot, yo, and that's
Yeah,
one trend that I did notice big time on this show, which is not again, we're gonna talk about this more when we get to later on in the show because I have a big rant to cut on that. So this, of course, ended up being 3-on-3 because Wade Barrett did not wrestle, but he did hit the bull hammer on Woods, and then Sheamus hit the bro kick. And then after the match, Sheamus is or Wade Barrett's like, oh well, there's no 3 men who can stop us. Shawn Michaels comes out, very good shape, takes off his shirt, and he's wearing ring gear, which I was like, oh my God, he's
yeah.
coming out of
I
retirement.
was like, dude, no way.
He's coming out of retirement in a match with the fucking League of Nations, bro. What a waste. He wouldn't come out of retirement to wrestle Daniel Bryan in a 5-star match, but he will come out to wrestle the League of Nations. Fuck off. And fuck that. But again, it wasn't actually a match. Then Mick Foley came out, and then Steve Austin came out to the biggest pop of the night, which is what you'd expect. It's Steve Austin, okay? And again, it just kind of goes to show that there will never ever be another Steve Austin. There will never be another Rock. There will never be another Hulk Hogan. You know,
Never.
these guys are one in a lifetime. Not to say there won't be a big star like them, but there's only one Steve Austin in Texas. The New Day pulled Barrett to the floor. All the old guys hit their finishing moves. It was a WrestleMania moment seeing them all together, you know, and they all did battles, of course, back in the Attitude Era. All of them battled each other. Of course, Austin wrestled Mick Foley several times in '98. He wrestled Shawn in '97 and in '98.
Lots of history between those three.
Lots of history. And then, of course, Shawn and Mick had one classic match at Mind Games. But they never really had a long feud. But yeah, it was fine. I like how Austin hit the stunner on Rusev, and Rusev took a bump
Yeah, he flew.
He took a better bump than freaking Vegeta did on Dragon Ball Super when he was out of the ring, bro. He just did Vegeta took a great bump. Actually, the best bump in Dragon Ball Super was probably Frost when he got one-shotted by Vegeta, bro.
Oh yeah, went right through the dome, dude.
Great flat back bump he did, bro. And
still got up. He still
yeah.
got up after that.
He still got up. Austin celebrating with the beer was fun. Then he danced with Woods and he gave him the stunner. Fun little WrestleMania moment. But again, one thing that is present on this show that I think should be noted is that this company, I think, relies, and it's been the same thing now for years now. One of the problems in WWE right now is that because of their inability to create new stars, they are relying way too much on the older stars. And to me, that's a problem. Now, for this segment, I felt it was fine because it's a WrestleMania moment with these guys. Didn't really hurt anybody. That's okay. Even though it's kind of dumb that the League of Nations loses to... The League of Nations beats the New Day and then they lose to the old guys. That to me is kind of weird. But you can always say, well, they already wrestled, blah, blah, whatever. It's still weird. I think the company should be trying to not do this stuff too often, but we see it so often at WrestleMania. We've seen it like every year at WrestleMania or whenever a legend comes back. And I think that they do kind of put too much of an emphasis on the older guys when they should probably not do it so much. Case in point, the co-main event with Shane and Taker, which I'm going to get to shortly here. We'll talk about it, but yeah, that's how I felt.
I mean, I definitely agree. I just felt as if the New Day should have won, and I think that they should have led into a segment to where, they were doing their thing. They were doing like their hokey, your booty kind of thing. And I think if there was ever a time, as you said, to formulate new stars, I think that the debut of Big Cass and Enzo should have happened because the interaction between those two and the New Day would have been...
I love those guys.
Oh my God, that would have been perfect. I mean, with Enzo calling him soft and with, Xavier Woods calling him booty and stuff, that would have been so fun. And, then you could have executed the veterans coming out and handling the New Day, and then, Enzo and Cass are there. I mean, I think it would have given them huge amounts of exposure because... later on throughout the night, we got to see another NXT star, Baron Corbin there. So I just felt as if, again, it might happen tomorrow, depending on when you're watching this video. It might happen tomorrow, like those two might debut on Raw. But I just felt as if, the New Day ought to have had that chance to win because, as you said, they're over and they're just full of charisma. And you can go far with these individuals, so as long as they're, utilized correctly. So moving on from there, we had the no-holds-barred street fight between Dean Ambrose and Brock Lesnar. Now, I enjoyed the shit out of this match, and for me personally, I think Lesnar was definitely worked here because with the crazy style John Moxley had back in the Indies and when he was doing CZW and stuff, that definitely was reflected here. Not as violent as it was when he was doing the things that he was doing years ago, but I still felt as if he inflicted a lot of pain to Brock because those kendo shots they look very brutal. With the end result of Brock picking up the win with just a fierce F5 onto a pile of chairs. What are your thoughts on this match? Because I thought for the most part it was good. I felt as if it should have been just a little bit longer, but what are your thoughts about this match?
I agree it was good. Some of the highlights were, as you noted, I love the DDT into the stairs, the fire extinguisher, the kendo stick, some good near falls there. Lesnar ducking the barbed wire bat.
Those Germans were ferocious, man.
Yeah, and we should note that they actually had a big timer on the big screen counting all the suplexes. That was amazing. Great.
It was 13, right? 13?
I think 13 or more, yeah. And the belly-to-belly superplex was incredible. But the match I felt was a little bit too short, a little bit too anticlimactic. The booking going into this match made absolutely no sense because Dean Ambrose was not protected, has not been protected for a long time. If you're going to put him in WrestleMania in a highlight match with a big star who draws money, you have to protect the guys who you're going to put in there. You can't just have him lose. And the problem with Ambrose, and I really like Dean Ambrose. This is nothing against Dean Ambrose, the wrestler. He's a great performer. performer. The problem with him is that he's a clown. He's a cartoon character, and you can't have a clown feuding with a legitimate badass. Like the thing with Lesnar is he has to have legitimate matches with legitimate tough guys. And Ambrose has been booked to shit. I mean, he lost the Bray Wyatt feud. He lost Seth Rollins feud. He lost the Kevin Owens feud. So how in the blue hell do we as wrestling fans or as fans of a good story buy that this guy can beat Brock Lesnar? How can we believe in the context of a story that he can beat Lesnar, who has never lost for a few years? And no, the Taker thing does not count as a loss because obviously the referee didn't see the tap, all
Well,
right?
didn't he technically lose last year?
That's why I said the Taker thing doesn't count.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not counting that because Taker tapped out before it was a fuck finish. Taker tapped out and the referee didn't see it. That was the whole fuck finish there.
Right.
So he won that match technically. But the point is that Lesnar's never lost except for Triple H and Cena. So since coming back. So how are you going to have this mid-carder who is not protected in any way, have any kind of real interesting, fascinating, back and forth match with Lesnar? I mean, it was a clean win, and it was a super clean win. It was just boom, F5, and that was it. It wasn't two F5s. It wasn't the armbar. It was just one F5, and that was it. It just kind of looked like they never felt that Ambrose could win the way this was booked. He didn't win, and it literally looked like this is the first time, honestly, this is the first match that Brock's been in since coming back on pay-per-view where I feel like he's been phoning it in for a paycheck. This
Really?
match was
Why does he feel that way?
because I don't think it was just a nothing match. Like the match didn't really work. Lesnar, you can tell he wasn't really in it. Last year he was having a classic with Roman Reigns in the main event. This year he's in there he's with a goof. He doesn't believe. Lesnar does not believe. And here's the other thing about this feud that really is bad booking. This is bad booking. This is bad booking 101. Lesnar was owning this guy week after week after week after week. Ambrose never got a hint of offense. He's a freaking clown. He's a goofball. I'm talking about the way he's being booked. How is a match supposed to have heat if one of the guys in the match has no heat? And that's the problem. And that's real shit. That's real fucking wrestling 101. And to me, it's hard to get into a match like this as a performer, Lesnar, than as a fan as well. Like, let me ask you a question. If you were Brock Lesnar, right?
Right.
And you were being paid, because you're a wrestler, you were being paid this much to go against this guy who is a joke, he's a clown, he hasn't won a feud. Would you be into it as much as a match with like a real star? I can't see you being that much into it.
I mean, like, every circumstance that you're placed in, I believe, has to be taken very serious. You can't just go in there disregarding whether or not he's a goof in the ring or not. I feel as if every single match ought to have like that concept and story to where you have to take it serious because number one, you're being paid an X amount of money to be out there and
but this is Brock, bro. He comes in to collect his checks. He's not that passionate. You know what I mean?
I know, absolutely. And again, he doesn't have to be in the business anymore. I mean, he's already paid his dues. He's already proven his point. I mean, he's beaten the Undertaker. He broke his streak. He's done a lot in the business. But considering the fact that I just felt as if like the booking aspect of things, they automated to where I felt as if Dean Ambrose should have picked up the win because it would have solidified Dean Ambrose as being legit. But then again, it also goes into believability. You have Brock Lesnar, 6'3", 295 pounds. You have Dean Ambrose, 6'4", about 220. Like the believability factor, having like this little scrawny man go up against like this mountain of a mountain.
Let me just stop you for a moment. What it was is, I've said it before, it's Batman, Superman.
Oh yes,
Superman's legitimately strong. Batman has to use gimmicks to win. And that's the problem with this match, that they're both pretty much baby faces, right?
Yes.
And so you don't know who to cheer for. You can't really cheer for the small guy, but at the same time, you can't really boo the big guy because he didn't really do anything wrong. He's pretty much punking Dean Ambrose out each and every time. Ambrose comes out, challenges him to a freaking fight, loses every time. Like, that's not how you book a main event babyface. That has never worked in 120 years of fucking wrestling. Do your fucking homework if you don't believe me, because like I said, I'm a fucking historian. That has never worked. You cannot book a main event babyface by having him lose fair fights.
Absolutely, and especially with the plans of them going on ahead to make Dean Ambrose future main eventer. How are they supposed to do that when there's no credibility under his belt? As you said, he's been losing feuds a lot, man. So exiting out of this feud now, like what do you do with Dean Ambrose? Like where do you go with him?
There's rumors he might go heel on Roman, which means he'll be a babyface.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, dude? It's just this match. It was a fun match. It was a fun match. It wasn't as fun as I hoped it would be, but it was a fun match. But I just feel like Ambrose has no credibility. I say take him off TV, or you start having him rack up some wins and win some feuds. This is now the fourth feud in a row that this guy has not been able to win. He couldn't get the job done on Roman Reigns in Survivor Series. He couldn't get the job done on Roman Reigns in Fastlane. The guy just doesn't win matches. You can't have a main event guy, and this is a main event match. You cannot have a main event guy lose that much. You just can't.
No, you're absolutely right.
Can't.
And again, like
He becomes a
I
clown.
loved Ambrose when he was a heel, bro. Like he reminded me a lot of the Joker. So I mean, having him become a heel and just going down that route, I think it might save him a lot because like you would have more of an explanation as to what's going on in his head, and he can actually elaborate further as to that he finally snapped. He doesn't care about the people. He's been doing everything for the people, and the people has let him down. Like there's so much you can build off of here because there is room for him to turn heel, but again, like focusing on the direction in which they're going at, I think that they're gonna possibly keep him face, but maybe turn him heel against Roman because I think that'll make a lot of sense here.
Yeah, I don't know. The thing is this is that think about how this feud went. Brock punked him out every time, beat his ass every time. Dean Ambrose was like, I'm going to get revenge at WrestleMania because I'm going to get to use weapons. You had Terry Funk and Mick Foley give him their blessings. And this guy still couldn't get the job done, bro. He hit Brock with everything but the kitchen sink, kendo sticks, and Brock still, like, what a bitch. He's a punk, bro. He's a punk. And I hate to say it, but he's a punk. Now he's in for some serious repackaging. The problem with modern wrestling is because there's no more territories, what they do is they turn guys now. So when someone's going to get stale, they turn them, right? Like you said. But the problem is that there's no territories. Whereas back in the day, Dean Ambrose would leave for 6 months, work somewhere else, or leave for a year, and then come back fresh. Can't do that anymore. So they probably are going to turn him, or they're going to have him just keep being a loser.
No,
So the
absolutely.
match had no heat with me, bro. With me, it had no heat. There was some cool shit, but it was more like I'm watching like a car crash. Like, you
No,
know what I mean? Does that make sense?
absolutely. It's like Batman versus Superman, and again, like the believability factor. I mean, it was a very fun match to watch. I mean, I feel as if Ambrose's psychology was there because it made it seem like he was breaking down, but he just kept coming back into the fight. Especially when I mean those German suplexes were so ruthless, man. Like the way Lesnar would just pick him up like a rag doll and just fling him across the ring. It's scary, and Germans hurt if you don't know how to take them right. And those German suplexes looked fucking ferocious. And I loved it because every single time he took a German, he would roll out of it and like just sit there and he would be like out of daze. He was just like done out of it. But again, I do agree with what you mean. They ought to repackage him because at this point people can't really take him serious because
Exactly, bro. He's
he's
a
been
loser. He's a
he's been losing. Yeah,
loser.
but the same thing can be said about Bray Wyatt as well. He's been losing a lot too, and people can't really take him serious either. So,
Oh, especially after tonight. I
yeah, dude,
mean,
I
and
think
this is the problem. Let me just rant for a second. This is the problem with WWE right now. I'm not one of those freaking fat marks on the internet who thinks they know everything. That's not who I am. But I do understand kind of booking and storytelling and shit. And that's been the problem with WWE right now for a very long time is that they keep bringing back these old guys and they keep not burying, but hurting their young talent. The young talent never gets over because their mentality is, oh, well, if we have the Wyatts with The Rock, that'll give the Wyatts a rub. Well, in theory, sure, that might make sense, except for the problem is that when you have John Cena and The Rock beating up three guys, what does that do for them? Like, is Cena going to feel wide again? Okay, maybe we'll get that. I don't know. But, it's been a problem now that WWE's had a major problem, okay, in booking, getting guys over. The
yeah.
guy who they got, that's been a major problem now for years. Daniel Bryan kind of got over a little bit, but where they screwed up in is that they kind of kept subconsciously burying him, subconsciously, which I'm not going to get into right now because that's another video altogether. But they've been trying to get Roman Reigns over. He's getting booed, and the reason why he's getting booed is because he's very manufactured. The fans don't want him on top. The fans want one of their guys on top because,
Yes,
like I
yes,
said, the casual audience is gone. The
yes.
hardcores is what's left. They want Sami Zayn. They want Nakamura. They want those guys to be main eventers. WWE's just they can't let it go. They cannot let go that we control the fans. We control the fans, and you can't argue with them because they just did a huge freaking house tonight. $13.3 million. What we understand the gate was. So what the hell? I think it might be 13.3 billion. I think it's million. Whatever. I think it is million. Anyways.
Yeah, billion would be too much.
Yeah. No, it's $13.3 million. Yeah, it's just ridiculous house. You know what I mean? But it's
Yeah.
just it's just that's been a problem with them. And the one guy who is over in this company is Brock Lesnar. And even the bloom is kind of off that rose too. You know, you have Lesnar who's super over, but they have no idea what they're doing with him and nothing feuds. You know, he's going to be feuding with the Wyatts next, allegedly. We don't know for sure after tonight. And then we've got guys like Roman and Ambrose, who Ambrose gets over, but they keep having him lose. And their whole thing is, well, we can have him lose because he'll just, he's over. And that's what they don't understand. If you have him lose,
Yeah,
he's
he
not
could
gonna
just
be
ricochet back
over.
up because he's already over with the crowd.
Yeah, but that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Not when you keep beating the guy. People lose faith, bro. And they move on to the next guy. And that's the thing, that there's no credibility left. So they had a major problem booking baby faces because, with Cena, you had the hardcores kind of rejecting him, but then they accepted him once Roman came around because Roman's worse than Cena. Roman just doesn't have any fire, which we'll get into later. It's been a problem, and I feel like this company is literally like in a hamster wheel. They're just doing the same shit every year. Let's bring The Rock back. Let's bring Austin back. Have a WrestleMania moment. But you're having a WrestleMania moment with the same guys doing the same thing, and it really is getting played out. Like, it really is. This year was too much for me.
No, absolutely, man. It was one of the weirdest WrestleManias, and I think Dean Ambrose, dude, Dean Ambrose has such charisma, and give or take whether or not he's a baby or a heel, he could still play the roles relatively well. Like, I prefer him as a heel because again, he reminds me of the Joker, especially when he was in the Shield and when he was going up against Punk, and then he was doing all these things with certain individuals. Like, when he would speak, he would remind me of the Joker, especially with the segment with Roddy Piper and stuff.
Well, and just to add to what you're saying, he's a very talented guy. He's
Yeah,
very talented. It's the booking. It's not the guy.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And that's the problem of pro wrestling today is the booking factor is just it's horrible. Even the wrestlers themselves, like Austin has said it. I mean, many people have said it on their podcast. The bookings are absolutely terrible. So, but like exiting out of this match, which was a very very good match, we went into the triple threat match for the Divas Championship.
Well, we also had the Hall of Fame
Oh
segment.
yes,
That
yes, the
was,
Hall of Fame ceremony. I mean, all right.
there's not much to say, but
But
they were all there.
I do want to get your take on one thing. What are your thoughts on Sting retiring? Because he had his final match with Seth Rollins. Before that, he was going toe to toe against Triple H. With him retiring and him finishing up his career, what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think we could have gotten one more out of him, or was that really it after that Rollins match?
No, I first of all, as a lifelong Sting fan, because I was a fan of Sting since like '92 when he had the blonde hair.
Yes.
I was bummed. I'm not gonna lie. When he announced retirement, I was bummed because we had heard that he had neck problems, but there were a couple stories from TMZ saying, "Oh no, they're not as bad as you think." Okay, well maybe he will wrestle one more time, but he officially announced retirement at the Hall of Fame. As a fan, I am bummed. However, as a human being, um, I'm okay with it because I don't want this guy to end up not being able to walk. And to me, that's the most important thing because we got to forget being a mark for a second and be a human being here. I think the Stinger had a great career, maybe not the best career, but he had a great career. And he did draw money once in WCW in 97, 98. They actually did. I believe it was 12 consecutive sellouts, which had never happened before in the history of the business. There was never 12 consecutive sellouts within a 12-week span. Like, we're talking about 12 weeks of sellouts straight through house shows, Nitro, and Thunder. That's never happened before, where you have like 4 shows a week all sold out for 12 weeks straight.
Even with
Never.
Hogan there.
Yeah, well, it was Sting and Hogan, but together. But also, there's other examples, like for example, Mid South, not Mid South, Memphis did do a lot of sellouts too. But we're talking about different cities. It's the only time ever where you have a traveling wrestling company in different cities selling out 4 shows a week. Big draw right there. Sting was, and Goldberg was there too, but it was mostly Sting was champion. But the point is this: that he is a star, and but as a human being, I don't want this guy to end up in a wheelchair. So I'm okay with him retiring, as sad as that might make me.
It was a very sad moment because I'm pretty sure in the fans' eyes they wanted to see Taker versus Sting. They wanted to see Sting versus Cena, whatever the case may be. People wanted that, but now again, as a human being, you have to understand that these injuries, they can really take a toll on you. And I remember William Regal tweeted out his neck injury that he had, and these things are very very serious because an injury could lead to a death. Like that's something that WWE is very anal about. Is injuries. If you're injured and it seems very bad despite what you've done in the business, you gotta go, man. Like, they can't afford to have another person die on their main roster under their umbrella, you know, because that can also make them look bad. And I think the whole thing with after what happened with Eddie Guerrero and stuff, like, you know,
And with Chris Benoit. But
yeah, yeah, like
I will say this. It might not be WWE that made Sting retire. A doctor may have legitimately told him, listen, man, your neck is fucked. I mean, because, dude, when you're a wrestler, I don't want to put bad jujus in your career here, Alex, but
absolutely.
a lot of wrestlers end up with bad necks, bro.
Yeah,
I don't
dude.
want to.
No,
I don't want to.
no,
I
I
don't want
agree.
to. I don't want to fucking say that to you, but it's true. I've seen
No,
it too
no,
many
you're dude,
times.
you're absolutely right because these things that happen, I mean, that's why you have to try to avoid doing certain things with your neck because that's your primary, you know, that's the structure of your body, dude. You break that, it's over. And we've seen what happened over the course of time with many wrestlers who have broken their necks. And you can't really come back from that. Like sometimes it's an exception for you to come back from certain situations like these, but you know, it's remarkably hard, you know. And I definitely agree with you. I feel for the guy. I definitely would have loved to see at least one or two more matches from him, but it is what it is. You know, he's gonna ride off in the sunset, you know, with an amazing legacy. And you know, for what it's worth, it was great to see him be in the Hall of Fame. You know,
Yes, it was.
and
Now the three. Oh, what else do you want to say? I was gonna
no,
go
no, no.
ahead.
I was gonna talk about what are your thoughts on Snoop Dogg being in the Hall of Fame, considering the
Uh,
fact that
uh,
he is a legit wrestling fan. However,
I know, but I'm very disrespected whenever they do something like this.
right,
As
right.
a fan, yeah. Well, the celebrities. Here's the thing: if you're gonna do a celebrity wing, people like Mr. T, Mike Tyson, Cyndi Lauper, even the Euchre, they can be in there because they've actually contributed to the business in a historical way, and they've actually helped the business out. Snoop Dogg made one appearance at WrestleMania and three on Raw. To me, that's not a Hall of Famer. I think it's a publicity stunt. Same thing with the Warrior Award. The original idea behind the Warrior Award was that it was going to be an award for the people who work in the company, the people who work in the company who are hard workers who never get noticed, like Jimmy. I think it was Jimmy Miranda's the guy who he named. Guys behind the scenes, but they've twisted it into this award for people who are inspiring. Now, I'm okay with the inspiration part, but it does come off a little bit like it's a publicity stunt, which I don't really like. I don't like when they use real diseases like cancer and shit as a publicity
Yeah,
stunt, and it
yeah.
does come off that way. It does come off that way. If you get offended by this, I'm just telling you how I honestly feel. I've had family members die of cancer. I know cancer, and having them give an award for somebody. I mean, I respect that lady a lot. Joan, what's her name? Joan.
I forgot her last name.
Yeah, Joan. I respect her a lot, but I mean, to me, it's just something that just seems like something that should be a segment on Raw, not a Hall of Fame. But I'm not happy with the Snoop Dogg thing. But it was cool seeing Snoop Dogg come out with Sasha Banks and singing her entrance, even though, to be honest, she tributed Eddie Guerrero. You had Snoop coming out. I'm over here thinking that, okay, I'm thinking they're really telegraphing that Sasha's gonna win, and it didn't
No, no,
happen. But
absolutely. And I was shocked when they referenced that they said that was her cousin. I was like, whoa, really? That's her cousin?
yeah, that's yeah. Snoop Dogg is her cousin or her niece or something like that. His niece, I don't know. But to me, I think that this match, 16 minutes, I thought it was the best match of the night. A
Really?
little spotty,
The Divas match.
yes, a little bit spotty. I thought it was the best match of the night. These girls worked their freaking asses off, and I love all three of them.
No,
I really
absolutely.
do.
We had Charlotte the champion. We had the competitors, the contenders, Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. Again, as you said, it was such an emotional match because you felt the need of these women trying to become, you know, champions, and I felt like the story that was being told was very good. There were certain things that were just, you know, they seemed a little off, like very very little. Like for example, when Sasha Banks went for her finish, there were times where Becky would roll out of the way, like it kind of messing up like the whole flow of like having to go like over her and then, you know, locking in the submission like the correct way. But the match was very good. And here's the thing that I love about having managers at times, because more often than not when someone comes out with a manager, that manager never does anything. But Rick actually did certain things to get involved in the match, and I felt like that was good because you don't want to just have him there and just be there just because he's Ric Flair. Have him be involved in the match, especially towards the end
Yeah,
when he was holding
he was
Sasha
awesome.
back.
And I did love how Charlotte came out with like a mock Ric Flair roast
Yes.
from
Oh, dude, that
Orlando.
was
That
fucking
was
amazing.
awesome. Yeah, and they did present the new belt to her here too. This was the first match for the quote women's title, which I guess is gonna have the same lineage as the I don't know, as the Divas title. I don't know, but I love this match, bro. Dude, Charlotte hit this incredible moonsault. Sasha did a tope with a second flip, all kinds of just wacky three-way spots. They fumbled a little bit on a sunset flip, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Just what a great match. I'm gonna go back and rewatch it, and it adds to the WrestleMania three ways. classic women's matches because WrestleMania 18 and 19 both had really good three ways. 18 was Lita, Trish, and Jackie, I believe, or yeah,
Yeah.
Lita, Trish, and Jackie, and then 19 was Lita. Actually, I think 19 was Lita, Victoria. No, I'm sorry, Trish, Victoria, and no, 18 was Trish, Lita, and Jazz. I'm sorry. 19, that sounds very racist of me getting those mixed up. I did not mean to come off like that. I just my memory's not working right now. And then 19 was Trish, Victoria, and I think Lita as well. I think that's what the match was. They're good matches. This one's even better.
Absolutely. And I felt, even after the match was over, I felt as if Lita, like, especially after watching her when she was talking, I felt as if like she also missed being in the ring, especially after what she saw, because like it's very rare, especially in the women's division, to come across talented women that perform to the highest of calibers. And as you said, these women, they went out there and they did their thing in front of thousands of people. Like they told the story that needed to be told. They performed. Like as I would say, they also performed like kind of like men. Like they weren't scared to just go out there and do what needed to be done because they're trying to cement their legacies. They're performers, they're entertainers, and they're trying to put on the best possible quality match they can. And I love that. Out of all three competitors, and again, I also believe that Sasha Banks was going to win because of the little hints that they were giving off here and there, and she had the biggest reception out of all three individuals. She had the biggest pop. Now, are you satisfied with Charlotte retaining, or do you think the end result should have been different?
I think it should have been Sasha. I'm curious about why they had Charlotte retain, unless they might give Sasha a one-on-one win. I
Right.
thought it was set up perfectly to have Sasha win this thing and have Snoop Dogg come in there and celebrate with her. They had her music going. They gave her a great entrance. All three girls got great entrances. But no, Sasha did not win. Maybe they're going to go for like Charlotte having the belt longer. I'm not really sure. We all kind of thought Sasha was going to get the win here, and she didn't get it. So I'm not really sure where they're going with it. So
I mean, for me, I'm satisfied with Charlotte retaining because she also is an incredible athlete. She's not a shit athlete. She has the potential to be
oh,
great.
they're all great, man.
No,
All three of them are incredible.
absolutely. I mean, personally, I wouldn't mind if either or, retain or just won the title. I mean, I wouldn't mind if Becky won. I wouldn't mind if Sasha won because, again, they've all proven themselves in NXT. They have all proven themselves, performing on Raw and whatnot, and then watching their match at WrestleMania. I gave them the utmost respect because women's wrestling is always looked down upon because
Absolutely.
it's
But
always
there's
people always say, oh, it's just watered down, it's a bathroom break, but I don't think people were viewing that
well,
match that way, dude.
in WWE historically, there have been times where it was, but then you also had the good era with Trish and Mickey
Yes,
James, and
yes.
they tried with a few girls like Maurice and Michelle McCool, which to me I don't think they were ever that good. They were okay. I was really excited when Karma, Awesome Kong came over, but she's out of her mind, so she's not around. But yeah, it's never been, I don't think, as good as it is now because they're actually promoting these women as athletes and giving them the same respect they give, cruiserweights and wrestlers. And to me, that's very important that they do that. It is very important. Stephanie McMahon is a female head of the company. You got to do shit like that. And for anybody out there who actually thinks that all women's wrestling is bathroom break, no. If you go back to the 90s, all Japan women were having better matches than men were in the world, in the entire world. You go back and you watch Bull Nakano and you watch Lioness Asuka and these legendary women wrestlers, and you'll lose your mind. Like you will, like Manami Toyota. These are like legends of Japan that are better than the men. They were better in the 90s. Not every man, of course, but in general, they were having five-star matches each and every night, and they were doing moves that guys didn't even could even come up with. So, yeah, women wrestling can work if they treat it with respect, and they did tonight, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that again, people gave them, the benefit of the doubt during the early portions of the match, and then towards the end of the match, like the crowd was still there. I mean, first of all, they were there from like start to finish. Like it wasn't as if like the crowd was dead. They were into this match, and again, I think all three individuals proved that they are worthy of being on the grandest stage of them all and just performing on that kind of a caliber because it's not easy, especially if you're a female. I would assume you're looked down upon because you're a female and you think you take things very very lightly and stuff, and us men have to bust our asses. But they went out there and they killed it, dude. So that was a terrific match. That
To
was
me, it
that,
was the best match of the night. It gave me everything I wanted.
absolutely, which led to our famous Hell in a Cell match between Shane McMahon and The Undertaker, which was again I had mixed feelings about this
Me
because
too.
it was just I mean, like again, it wasn't the best Hell in a Cell match. It certainly was very interesting. I would say it wasn't the best match Shane McMahon ever had, or The Undertaker. That dive off of the top of the cell, I mean, it was expected in a way because it's Shane McMahon. That's what he does. Did not expect Taker to move out the way, and his reaction about that was just priceless because like his eyes were like
His
wide open.
eyes,
It,
yeah.
it, it, it looked as if like Undertaker was just like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" He wanted to, but it was great. Now I have to ask you, like, what's the direction that they're gonna go in here? Because we understand the whole concept of I'm gonna take over Raw and I'm gonna bring about change. And I hate the title of change because it's so misconstrued nowadays. And it's often taken with like a grain of salt because when people talk about change, nothing's ever really changed. You know what I'm saying? So, but like, what are your thoughts on this match? Because some people loved it, other people like just completely despised it because they just felt like the match wasn't Hell in a Cell worthy of being like on WrestleMania and stuff. So
No,
like,
I didn't despise it. My problem with the match is that it was completely pointless. The booking going into it was atrocious. It did. I've talked about this on previous videos and podcasts that I've done. It didn't make any sense. They basically booked a match where no matter who won, you'd have a bad outcome because if Taker won, then the authority's still in power, and if Shane won, then the authority would be out of power, but Taker would have lost to a non-wrestler, 55-year-old guy.
right.
The problem with this match is that it just was not believable to me. It was a spectacle, 30-minute match, just not believable at all. I don't buy Shane McMahon doing MMA spots on Taker. I don't buy Taker selling them. I don't buy Shane doing triangles. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And if you disagree with me, I respect that. I really do respect that. Some people I love Shane. I do like Shane a lot. I love Undertaker. I just don't buy that this legendary, character, the Undertaker, over 2 decades of destruction at this point, and he is in there selling for a 45-year-old non-wrestler who's half his size. Like that, I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. I love the coast to coast. I love certain spots. I just do the fact that Shane McMahon kicked out of a last ride in a choke slam, that rubs me the wrong way. Like, what happened to those moves being it? Like, I can understand if like Brock Lesnar kicks out, or Roman Reigns, or even
Yeah,
Triple H,
yeah, yeah.
trained wrestlers, okay, like but Shane McMahon, who hasn't had a match in 6 years, like I don't buy it. And Shane doing the spot from the top of the cell was incredible. They did the spot where he used the bolt cutters to loosen the cell, and then he got speared. I thought that was great. We've seen that before in SummerSlam '08 with Edge and Taker.
Taker,
Great
yeah.
match, great match. But Shane goes to the top and does the elbow from the top of the cage. We had heard the scuttlebutt. They were planning a 48-foot drop. It turns out that really wasn't 48 feet. It was 20. But they were planning some kind of stunt spot. We kind of knew Shane would fall off of something. There were rumors about there being a stunt double. No, Shane McMahon himself dove off the top of that thing through a table, earning his paycheck. I saw him still breathing when he hit the ground, so he was okay. I'm sure he talked to Mick Foley about it. I love the spot where Shane escaped the Hell's Gate and turned into a sharpshooter, except it's kind of weird because it's Shane McMahon doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And then Taker just kind of carries him into the ring. Tombstone, 1, 2, 3. Why is Shane here? That's the problem I have with this match. So they basically brought Shane in just to lose. They brought him back to have a match with Taker and just lose, and that's it. Everything's the same. And that, to me, is the problem with this whole show, is that tomorrow night on Raw, we are supposed to see the Bullet Club and all that. There's a lot of rumors, but everything is still exactly the same. And I felt that tonight would have been a great opportunity to kind of change the business and kind of move in a different direction. But it's literally the same thing. Taker will not be there. Shane will probably not be there, even though he might be there to cut a promo. So where do we go from here? That's exactly my question to you. Where do we go? And it's just hard to buy Shane's offense on Taker. The stunts made the match not one of my favorite Hell in a Cells. I thought it was a big no, like, we didn't see the Mean Street Posse or any of that shit.
Yeah.
It was just there. I don't think anybody's gonna remember this match in a couple of years, except for the one spot. The one spot is a highlight moment for sure.
I'll say this much: they got me with the incorporation of like Taker's career being on the line because you had all the signs of this being it. You had the largest stadium. You had Dallas, Texas. Taker's from Texas. Taker is getting older. Injuries are definitely catching up.
Yeah,
So
but hold on. Did you really believe that Shane McMahon would be his last match?
well. In an essence, yes and no, because I believe that there were rumors for years that Taker can't really his physical health isn't really there. Like,
Well, that's true, except that he had a match with Brock Lesnar in Hell in a Cell that beat the shit out of his body.
no,
So,
it did, dude. Like
yeah.
this guy is still taking tremendous amounts of bumps and bruises, and he's taking all these things. And I respect him so much because
Oh man,
being where he's at, man, like he doesn't have to do this, but he is. So like
you're right.
there was a bit of me that said, you know what, if this is it, then I'm fine with it because Hell in a Cell was, like it was built off the Undertaker when it first debuted on Taker and Michaels. Like just WrestleMania is his fucking home. That's the guy has performed for 23 WrestleManias, man, and he's been the guy paved the way for so many people, and he's put his body through so much. So I was like, you know what? If this is the time and the place, I'm fine with that because it's his hometown, the largest crowd in the world.
Well,
Let
that's
me
why I thought he shouldn't lose because it's his hometown, largest crowd. That's the reason that I thought he should not lose,
absolutely.
unless it was to another guy. Like, look, I'm not gonna play armchair Booker, but I think if they would have done Taker Roman, can you imagine the heat that Roman would have gotten against the Undertaker? Would have been way more in Triple H. And having Roman beat Taker and then retire him, I feel that would have made more sense if you're gonna go down that route.
What about the match that everybody's been wanting to see for Taker and Cena?
That would be awesome too. That would be fantastic as well. I would be okay with that. We haven't seen that match since 2003. But Cena was hurt, and then it turns out that he was fine like a week ago. I texted you that scoop. I was like, oh, he's actually fine
Yeah, I
now.
was like, dude, no way. Like, what the fuck? Isn't he still like recovering? And then boom, voila, he showed up,
Remember,
which we'll talk about later.
remember, John Cena has a miraculous freaking,
Yo, I
miraculous
mean, I'm
healing
telling you, sensu
powers.
beans are real, bro.
He has, yeah, and I want him. He has miraculous
Yo,
healing
those things are
powers,
real, man. But
right?
again,
Yeah.
for a moment, I was like, you know what? If this is it, it's it. But after he won, again, that goes back to what you said. Where are they gonna go with Shane now? What's the direction? Because Vince is gonna gloat, give me whatever in the box. Because that was the deal. You win
You're
here,
right.
Raw.
We have to. That's gonna get blown off tomorrow if they even remember. You're right.
You think so? Because again, like he made it specific. He was like, I want whatever in that lockbox. That way, you never have that dirt on me. So whatever's in that lockbox is going to be revealed tomorrow. Then again, Shane might lie and he might say, oh, it's not in this lockbox. I put it somewhere else. And in order for you to get to that, I'm gonna have to wrestle whatever. I'm pretty sure this is not the last of Shane McMahon, especially with like the McMahon storyline. But like the end result again, I mean, I wasn't really upset. I mean, I enjoyed seeing Taker win, but this also goes back to his loss at WrestleMania 30. That still sits there, and it's no longer that feel to where like it actually meant something more than when it actually was. Like for example, if he still kept his record and he still won tonight, it would have meant that much more because you would have had that factor to where his career was on the line and he had to do what he had to do to survive and keep his career intact and stuff, and that would have meant that much more. And then having him lose for his final match would have made more sense. So if they actually wanted to go on ahead and do Lesnar versus Taker, I think they ought to have saved that for like a future Mania to where Taker's like, you know what, I really can't go anymore. This is the time and this is the place for somebody to break the record and end my career.
Well, that was the plan for this WrestleMania at one time. And then they moved it to Hell in a Cell. But they
Yeah.
were gonna do the Hell in a Cell with Taker and Brock on this show. That was planned back in the fall, and they changed it. So yeah, I mean, this match, I don't know. I thought it was just a little, just pointless to me. We'll see where it goes tomorrow night. We don't even know if Shane's gonna stick around because I feel like you're right. They should blow it off tomorrow, but I feel like Shane's gonna be off. He's gonna be selling that injury because they stretchered him out. I mean, he
Yeah.
really sold, real
Yeah.
bad. So
I feel as if he's going to be on tomorrow just because Vince is going to say, all right, give me the key to the lockbox, and they're going to prolong that story for like however long they plan on doing it. So the Hell in a Cell match happened. It was a very intense match to watch only because, as you said, you had wrestler versus non-wrestler and all these like things happening with the dives and stuff. And then following that, right before our main event, was of course the Andre the Giant Battle Royal Memorial with Heath Slater, Curtis Axel, Adam
wait a
Rose.
minute, not right before the main event because there's a lot of stuff left. But
Oh
yeah,
no,
you're
of
right.
course. We had the. I think this is where the Rock came out to make the announcement. Uh,
Well, but yeah, but before that, yeah, the battle royal, like you said, Shaq was a big surprise. DDP and
oh God,
Tatanka. The Shaq thing was cool, but it was very short lived. They had
I
to be
really I
careful with
really
Shaq.
thought that as you told me, Cena was gonna pop in and get that victory,
Well,
man.
that's what I heard. That Cena might come in on this match. I was like, why are they saving it for so late in the show? And now we know that, that might be why. So there you go.
That was I mean the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. It was I mean, I think it was very predictable because I saw someone within that group that stood out the most, and it was the most believable factor to have that being Baron Corbin, him being like the black sheep in that group because automatically you would assume Andre Giant Battle Memorial, big guys, strong guys, and we had we had Big Show win, we had Cesaro win, and now we have Baron Corbin winning. Like what are your thoughts on that? I don't think anybody can be mad because who else could have won that, memorial? I mean, Victor, Connor, Goldust, and
Hell no, bro. No, I agree with you. I think that I'm happy that they used the Battle Royal to make a new star. That's what they should be doing. I think of all the guys in NXT, I don't know if he's the guy I would have picked. I think there's a few other guys that you could pick out of there to kind of make, like a Gable, for example. One of those guys I think would have been better. But I'm happy that Corbin won, and I do think that this means he's going to be on the main roster now. I mean, there's no point in him doing NXT ever again. So
no,
just
absolutely. I mean,
move him up.
I believe he lost his match against. No, he beat Austin Aries, correct, on NXT Takeover.
No, no, he lost.
No, he lost. He lost. That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, that makes sense
That's
because
his blow off. Yeah,
yeah,
pretty
that's
much.
that's it. He's moving on to the main roster. So I'm very intrigued as to what they're going to do with him because he's a very interesting looking individual. So but yeah, I mean the Andre the Giant Battle Memorial, it was what it was. So I mean it wasn't that interesting because I think the best one was the one with Cesaro because that one was really like a make it or break it kind of thing. Like he was out there and like he was competing against like relative
I,
names, because I remember
yeah,
like Rusev was in there and stuff. So like there were
yeah.
certain things.
Sheamus was in
Yeah,
there.
yeah. So like you
Big
had
Show.
like, but this one no, I'm not knocking the individuals that were in the match, but it like whoever was in there, it just didn't seem believable. I mean, Slater, Swagger,
Well,
like
it was everybody who didn't already have a spot. That's
absolutely,
pretty much
absolutely.
including plus Tatanka and DDP. I had heard Dreamer was gonna be in it. I guess not. I mean, I don't know. It was just a nothing. Again, it was a nothing match. It was just let's get Baron Corbin over. Let's
It
get
was
this new
there.
guy over. Yeah, and it worked. I mean, we don't know if it worked, but it's a start. The thing is that we don't know how much they're really gonna push this guy. I mean, I feel like with this guy, he does have talent. I don't think he's that great though. Again, he's not the guy who I would have picked, but at least he's a new guy. I just have a feeling they're gonna push him, and they're probably gonna give up on him because I feel like every guy who comes up now, they push him, then they give up on him. Look at all these guys like Fandango was in there,
Tyler
uh,
Breeze.
Tyler Breeze, Kevin Owens, just give up on him. But Kevin Owens is at least an upper mid card guy. We'll see how far Baron Corbin goes, and then we had the Cowboy cheerleaders come out for a dance.
Oh yes, and I'm pretty sure a lot of football fans weren't really too pleased to see that because I mean, really, everybody hates the Cowboys.
Except for the
Um,
Cowboy fans,
Absolutely, and that
right?
they were the only ones that were cheering too. But following that, we had the great one, the electrifying Rock come out. We came out with a flamethrower. I was like, what is he trying to do? Burn the building down? But he came out, he lit his name on fire, really cool. He looked great, and I noticed something right off the bat when he came in the ring and he was talking about the attendance record and stuff, which we'll get into right now. I noticed that the shoes that he was wearing, it looked like boots. And
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
you you can tell when someone's walking if they have knee pads or whatnot, because like there were certain outlines that resembled knee pads. I was like, wait a minute, he's wearing like his fucking like his shoes are too shiny to be shoes. They look like boots, and the outline of his pants like it looks like he's wearing like knee pads. So I was like, wait a minute, he's definitely gonna do something here. There's no way he's not. And then he announced the record of 101,000 people in the arena. Going back to what you said, what are your thoughts on them, making that claim? Because I understand where they
They
want to come from,
always do it, and they have to do it because it's almost like a shame thing. Like they can't sit there and say that they did less than 100,000.
because that'll
You know
make
what
them
I mean?
look, I guess,
Yeah, yeah.
less more appealing as a company.
Because I remember one of the big stories about the Pontiac Silverdome number was that they were trying to beat the Pope. I remember the big scuttlebutt was that they were trying to get more of an attendance for the Pontiac Silverdome than the Pope did, who I believe did 90,000 or so they thought. And then it came out the Pope actually did like 94,000 legit. So even then they couldn't beat the Pope. They thought they were going to beat the Pope by lying. They couldn't beat the Pope. So this is way back in the 80s. So they always do it every year. I mean, look, I was at WrestleMania in Miami. There were tons of empty seats. You could see them even on the pay-per-view version. They said it was 70,000. It was more about 60,000. So pretty much every year it's been like the last time they actually announced a legitimate attendance record, I believe, was 25. 25, 24, and 23, I think, were legitimate. Even though I think 23 might have been beefed up by a couple thousand, but still, like, nowadays, like, okay, we're going to add 10,000, this and that. That's why they do it. I mean, it's just something they do. Just
No,
don't buy it.
absolutely.
Don't
It's
buy it.
it's always been one of their things. But
It
then
makes the fans feel good, I guess.
no, because you feel as if like you're important, like you're just like, oh shit, like we're in here, like we're 100,000 people deep, you know. So that's
And notice they always break the record. Have you ever noticed that we always break the record for
yeah.
this building? It's always the same thing.
I'm gonna be surprised next year for Orlando if they announce like, oh, we just broke the record by like an extra 3 people.
Well, they're not going to break the 100,000 record because the building only seats a certain amount of people. But the thing is that the reason why they went with 100,000 is because the 2010 NBA All-Star game in the Dallas Cowboys Stadium was a legitimate 104,000 seat affair. So they had to break it. It's just that they, you know how it is, bro.
Of course, and that's an amazing number in and of itself. But we had The Rock come out, and speaking of popes, we had the unholy pope interrupt him, that being Bray Wyatt, and I was very intrigued by this because
Me too.
obviously Harper wasn't there, he's injured.
But remember, we're texting back and forth, and I noticed that they weren't in the Battle Royal, and I had heard all weekend they were going to be in the Battle Royal. And when they weren't in the Battle Royal, I said, okay, they're not going to not be on this show, and it made sense.
Absolutely, and again, Wyatt came out that he cut a very interesting promo, and The Rock, I knew right off the bat that The Rock was gonna roast him because the way he came off calling calling what's his face Braun Strowman like a 26 year breastfed inbred and stuff. It was hilarious. I mean the way he was roasting Wyatt and stuff. He's not the eater of world.
It's just typical Rock. He
Yeah, he's
always
like
does
the eater
that.
of hot pockets and stuff. It was great. And then surprisingly enough, Wyatt was like, I'm gonna decimate you. I'm gonna destroy your legacy in front of the people that made you and stuff. And it was really cool. The concept was really cool. The Rock was like, you know what? Let's handle business. Took off his shirt. He wanted a match. Now
Yeah.
you even said it yourself. I mean, they plugged a
They
WrestleMania match without even promoting it.
Yeah, they did not promote this at all. We knew The Rock was going to be there because of one or two appearances, but when you're doing the go home show for WrestleMania, you would think that you would have several different. Okay, Austin's going to be there, Shawn's going to be there, Rock's going to be there. Like you want to promote these stars, right? You don't have to say what they're doing, but you can still promote them. Cena too.
And
Nothing.
speaking of Cena, boom,
Yeah,
he came out
yeah.
because
Well, you also forgot to mention that Rock was wearing his tights, his actual Rock
yes,
tights.
he took off his pants and he had the Rock
And he said
tights.
we're having a match. And then so he rock bottoms Eric Rowan and pins him in 6 seconds. So
6 seconds.
yes, that is a legitimate like WrestleMania record now, and that's now like in the record books. The Rock pinned Eric. Eric Rowan had a match with The Rock at WrestleMania, folks.
And I'm actually glad
Yeah.
that this match did not have Bray Wyatt in it because I think that would have completely killed whatever what was left of Bray Wyatt, honestly.
Yeah, they could have sacrificed Rowan and it wouldn't have been a big deal. I agree with you on that.
Absolutely. And then we had the Wyatts trying to jump the Rock, and then boom, John Cena's music hits. And again, this is gonna go to this is gonna go back to what we're gonna talk about the main event for Roman
He
versus.
looked a little small.
No,
Cena.
he did. No, he did. I was gonna ask you, like, was it just me or did he look like a little smaller than what he was? But the reaction that he had again was mixed. People were happy to see him, but at the same time, they're being trolls. Still a better reaction than what they gave Roman, because that was that must have been tough. But Cena came out, Rock came out, they handled business. What are your thoughts on that? Because they were at one point rivals, and now they're standing in the ring. Like, what do you think like is going on here? Is there a further like a future agenda that they're gonna do with these two, or this is just like a one time kind of?
No, it's a WrestleMania moment. Unless they do a Cena Bray Wyatt feud again, it's a WrestleMania moment. They'll probably forget about it. And that's it. And the thing is, I'm gonna be real with you. I don't want to sound like a fat smarky marky, but I don't like the fact that Dwayne's taking more time away from the boys. I'm just kind of tired of it. He does it every single year now. When you say yabba, I say dabba. Yabba, dabba. And it's really played out to me. I like that he actually wrestled a match, but he didn't sell a goddamn thing the entire time. It wasn't like he got beat up. Last time he came out, he made a fool out of the New Day, and then before that, it was what's his name, the Russian Rusev. Like the guy never sells. He never ever sells. Okay, ever. He just comes out and embarrasses the young talent. And to me, if you're gonna give a guy a rub, have him beat up The Rock. Have The Rock actually get laid out. You know, like that one Raw where CM Punk laid out The Rock with the GTS. That's perfect. That's how you should have done it. And every time The Rock comes back, he just, oh, but we gotta send the fans home happy. Yeah, that's fine. That's great. Send them home happy. But how are you gonna make new stars? What's gonna happen when The Rock, Steve Austin, these guys are not ever coming back? Then what are you gonna do?
I don't know. Yeah, dude, they're in trouble. I mean, that's why I love what Triple H is doing with NXT because he has faith, man. He has faith, but again, there are certain walls that you just cannot break down. until like, you know, you see cracks in them, that one of them being, you know, the booking talents, that the people are just booking the shows and stuff, and McMahon is calling everything himself. So like there are certain boundaries and certain walls that you just cannot break or just go through. But you know, like as you said, what happens when these guys are no longer around? They're going to be in hot water unless they start building them now. Again, that goes back to what you said about Punk. I think Punk was like the last one to really challenge Rock and give him like, you know, a legitimately good match. And you know, it also built Punk up because, you know, here you have Punk, somebody who I'm sure a lot of people have doubted because of his size, because of his inability to be like, you know, Batista, John Cena, and like in looks and stuff. Like that gave him a lot of momentum. I still think that she should have retained against, you know, The Rock, but it was what it was at that time. And it would still be awesome to see The Rock come back and actually wrestle a young talent, put them over in essence, because that would give them more credibility. Like for example, if he came back and wrestled Kevin Owens or you know, Seth
Or Roman
Rollins.
Reigns, bro.
Yeah,
Roman
Roman Reigns.
Reigns.
But again, that's the whole
His
family
cousin.
factor. That's the whole family factor. They don't want to touch that too much because, like in a way, Roman's their poster child. So having him turn on The Rock wouldn't make them look good. Or even in essence, having The Rock turn on Roman, it just it wouldn't make too much sense to certain degrees because it's like these guys are already, you know, like in their own fields of family and all that kind of stuff. So I get what you're saying completely. Like that would be great. But you know, so some of these people are just thinking too much within the box
I mean,
instead of
it's
outside the box.
mostly it's mostly The Rock himself is what it is. The Rock just I'm guessing it's pretty much The Rock himself. But that being said, I mean, it was a cool segment seeing The Rock and Cena together. That was cool. I guess Cena's officially back, so we might get a Bray Wyatt Cena feud. I mean, that would make sense. The booking on this entire show was questionable. The action was fine on the show. Like I said, the booking was a little bit questionable. It's whatever, bro. It was a fine little segment. But again, it was just it didn't really like what is it gonna do for the future? Like it's just up to pop the crowd.
Absolutely. And
So now they can sit there and say, "Oh, we saw The Rock wrestle for 6 seconds." All right.
yeah, and it's just improv, all improv. I mean, it was what it was. It was cool seeing him there, but it just I think that next year I hope they do something more with it instead of just having certain people just appear. Make new stars. I mean, there's a pool of talent down in NXT, dude. Like you can make stars only if, you know, they're given time to just create them. And it also boils down to booking too. Like booking, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, what it is that these guys, again, I'm never gonna sit there and tell Vince McMahon how to book wrestling
Yeah.
because he's Vince McMahon. You can't tell these guys and Michael Hayes, they're geniuses. You can't tell them how to book wrestling, but I do feel like they're a little bit behind the times. And the one thing that they are making a mistake on now, I'm not saying they can't fix this. This can be fixed, but they're making a huge mistake on this now is that they don't understand their audience anymore. And then we're gonna talk about that when we talk about the Triple H Roman Reigns match right now. They don't understand their audience. Roman Reigns is not over as a top guy. He's not the guy. And there are several factors as to why he's not the guy. He's not drawing. He's done the number 4 merch seller, so that's fine. He's not moving the needle on television. He's not popping subscriptions. He is not getting cheered like a top guy. And a lot of this goes back, if you trace what's going on with Roman Reigns, a lot of it goes back to 2 or 3 different things. Number one, the 2014 Royal Rumble when Roman was the 2015 Royal Rumble. I'm sorry. The one where Daniel Bryan comes back and then Roman wins it and he
Yes.
gets booed out of the building. That was the biggest mistake they ever made because for Roman, it hurt Roman because people did not want Roman to win that match. They wanted Daniel Bryan to win, or at least they should have given Daniel Bryan something interesting and a good elimination. They didn't do it, and then they had Roman wrestle Bryan the next month and had Roman beat him, which was a good match, great match, but the people did not want that. They were still enamored with Daniel Bryan. It was basically like a guy who's in love with a girl who broke up with him, and there's a new girl coming who looks hot as hell, but he doesn't even look at the new girl yet because the old girl is still on his heart. Like, that's pretty much the Daniel Bryan thing broken down in a nutshell. Then, of course, Roman Reigns comes out there and cuts those fucking Looney Tunes promos where he's not getting over, yabba dabba doo, or whatever the hell he says, that didn't work. He was very manufactured. They did the Lex Luger thing with him where he would always come close to win the big one, but he would always lose. And then the biggest mistake I think they did with Roman Reigns is actually Roman Reigns' fault himself. He's not that great of a worker. He's not horrible, but he's not a great worker. He's not a main event worker. He is not a main event worker. They put the rocket up his ass, but he doesn't have the fire that a top babyface has. Steve Austin's talked about this on his podcast several times. Roman Reigns does not have top babyface fire. Bray Wyatt is threatening to like kidnap Roman Reigns' daughter, and Roman Reigns is walking to the back. Like he ruined it. Like he's ruined himself in that sense. And where's the fire at? The guy has no fire, and you have to have fire if you're gonna be a top babyface. And the company did not listen to their fans. This match, like we were all concerned about, we were all worried about this, was gonna die, and it died. This match died a death. They tried to have like a methodical wrestling match, which is fine. They both worked hard. Decent match, not a great match. Triple H wrestled a lot, did some Fujiwara armbar stuff. There was good stuff here, but the crowd was dead.
Oh, they resented everything, dude.
It was bad because first they booed the shit out of Roman Reigns to the point where the WWE production crew had to turn the crowd down because the booing was so loud. All the fireworks and everything, they turned it down because the booing was so loud. That's number one. Number two, after the booing died down, there was nothing. Like they did not care about the match for a couple reasons. Number one, we just saw The Rock and Cena. Number two, we just saw Hell in a Cell. Number three, we've been sitting there for 6 hours. This was a 7-hour show. I've been to 5-hour indie shows in my life, bro, and in the front row, and I've legitimately dozed off because
it kills you. It kills you.
It kills you.
It's
and
too
not
much.
just that, people are flying in, people are driving in, you're already tired from the road. 7 hours, yo. The only ones who could pull this off are the Japanese. Whenever you see a New Japan Dome show that goes 7 hours, okay, they can do it because they have fun stuff in between. This show was just too much. People were dead. The crowd was chanting Sami Zayn, Roman, they were chanting Nakamura, Bailey. They did the barricade spot, which was so played out. Stephanie was at ringside doing a fantastic job. Creepy entrance by Triple H, I thought, but cool, but not as cool as the last couple years. I think WrestleMania 30 was his best entrance. Reigns went to go spear Triple H, missed out of the way and nailed Stephanie with a good shot. Kudos to her. Bro, yes, kudos to her for taking that damn spear. Then pedigree, Reigns kicks out. Stephanie was, on the floor. Then she hands Triple H sledgehammer. Reigns hits 2 Superman punches. Ducks sledgehammer, spears him 1, 2, 3. The crowd just doesn't care. They do the fireworks thing and the confetti and all that. People just did not care. This company is doing the same thing that they have been doing now over and over again. It needs to stop. The people do not give a fuck about Roman Reigns. He's not the guy. And no matter how much you want to push him, he's just not the guy. He's not the guy right now. I'm not saying he can't be the guy in a couple of years. That's not what I'm saying. Right now, April 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever day it is, 2015, he's not
16.
the fucking guy. Whatever, 16. I don't even know what year it is anymore. He wasn't the guy a year ago either. All right, he's not a top guy. He doesn't have top guy heat. Not a top guy worker. Has charisma, great body, no homo. Great body, great look to him, handsome guy, for real. Very charismatic outside the ring, but he's just not the top guy, and they're force-feeding him to people, and it's not working. Triple H was way more over than him because Triple H is a legend, and because Triple H has been signing. Again, you don't understand your audience. You have pissed away the casuals. So that mentality of Vince McMahon of always pushing the big guys does not work anymore. Because number one, the wrestling fans nowadays are too smart. They know that Triple H signed Nakamura, signed AJ Styles, signed El Generico,
Everybody.
signed Kevin
Bobby
Steen.
Roode, everybody.
Bobby Roode. How can you boo this man? How can you boo him? He's a legend at this point. And in the feud, he beat up Roman Reigns 80% of the feud. And when Roman beat him up, it was for no reason. So it's just, I was really just floored by the fact that they actually went through with this finish, dude. In a nothing match. Just a nothing match.
10 years ago, WrestleMania
floored.
22, Triple H was the champion. John Cena was the contender. Similar situation.
John Cena was the champion, remember?
Oh, no, yes, it was. No, and no, it wasn't? No, I believe.
Yes. No, Cena was the champion defending it against Triple H.
Okay, so similar case here. We had people booing the hell out of John Cena, cheering the hell out of Triple H. Similar outcome, John Cena walked away as the champion. We have fast forward 10 years later, we have Roman Reigns, Triple H. Triple H was the heel, Roman was the face. Roman was getting booed to no end. Triple H was getting cheered. It's like a never-ending cycle, but I can see the direction and why they want to choose Roman Reigns. Again, as you said, he's a very good-looking guy. He's all about family, and that's what the product is about these days. It's all about family, and they emphasize on that a lot because that's what the company carries itself as these days. It's no longer, crazy signs, blood, guts, gore, violence. It's not about that anymore, and it sucks to say because I fucking grew up on that shit, bro. I grew up in one of the greatest wrestling eras of all time, and having to look at upon it now, it sucks because things change, and sometimes they don't change for the better. But as you said, the match itself, man, Triple H did his thing. Like, what do you think Roman was missing, like during the entirety of this
Well,
match?
I told you the fire. He just didn't have the fire, and the crowd was just dead for him. It was just,
What about
you
his
know,
charisma and his ability to like try to sell whatever Triple H was doing to him?
he was fine, but a guy like that, he was better last year against Lesnar. Like, there's still unfinished business because Lesnar pretty much owned his ass last year. Where's this guy like? You go from Lesnar to Triple H, and it's like, I get it, but Lesnar owned his ass for the majority of that match, and it was Roman coming back from the bottom. I think he was much better last year than he was this year against Triple H. But one thing I will say, just real quick, something that you said about WrestleMania 22, there's a big difference there. And the big difference was that Cena at the time was a top merchandise seller,
Yep.
and he was actually over. Even though in that building he was not over because the Chicago crowd hated John Cena, the decision to put him over actually needed to be done because Cena needed a legitimate win, and he had to get a big win on Hunter, and Hunter winning that match wouldn't have worked for him. So Cena winning there, I don't think was a bad decision at all. Here it's different because here Roman Reigns has never been over. Cena was a proven money draw. And in fact, Cena winning that match in '06 actually helped the company out because where a lot of wrestling fans don't remember or don't understand that the company was actually in a huge lull from '03 to '06. And Cena was actually the guy who got them out of a lull. Cena and Batista, they were actually, and they weren't losing money, but they were kind of in a drought. And then in 2007, the company actually made a profit that year, a significant profit because of WrestleMania, Cena, and Batista.
Yep.
Batista became a big star for the International House show. So, because everybody thought Batista has an ambiguous ethnicity, so they could bill him as a Mexican, a Greek, a Filipino. So he could sell out international house shows. So WWE was doing really well doing the house show loops with Batista. Cena was selling merchandise. So those two guys were over. Roman Reigns is not doing either one of those things. He's selling some merchandise, but he's not selling that much merchandise. So I just don't think he's the guy. The crowd doesn't think so. We'll see where they go with it. They might shove him down our throats until he gets over, or he might never get over. I don't know. Just this match was not the kind of match that could work to get him over, bro. The crowd, no.
No, you're absolutely right. But again, that goes back to Vince's mentality, bro. I mean, like he just probably sees it as another big guy, good looking guy. He could be used to be the poster child of the whole family concept of the whole PG era and stuff. And I get it in a way. And they have a lot of guys come out and talk about, well, yeah, he is the guy. He is the one for the business. He is fitting that mold of what the product wants. And as you said, the fans are just totally against that. But at the same time, you can't really have the inmates run the asylum sometimes. Fan
Yeah,
importance is
but
always important. Yeah.
let me just say one thing about that, though. I'm glad you brought that up. Another problem with Roman Reigns, and this has been a major problem, and I'm not going to go too deep into this because this is a totally different video topic we could do.
Yeah.
Modern wrestlers, and I'm not talking about you, modern wrestlers, a lot of them are marks, and a lot of them, the difference between Roman Reigns and somebody else like from the past, like Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, Hulk Hogan, The Rock, is that Undertaker. If they give you a script that's bullshit, you fucking rip it up. If you're a top guy, you have to have a little bit of an ego. You have to historically from every example I could think of, every top guy who made money in the history of wrestling had an ego. What hurt Daniel Bryan? When he was on that episode of Raw running away from Kane. If Daniel Bryan had an ego and was like a kind of somewhat of a dick and cared about his character, he would have been like, no, I'm not going to run away from Kane on Raw. What are you, nuts? And to me, like, that's the problem with a lot of these modern wrestlers is that they give them crap and they don't fight back against their crap. Whereas guys like would Shawn Michaels have run away from Kane in a Friday the 13th parody skit? Would Steve Austin have booked himself as the champion of the earth to run away from Kane, bro. Like that's what these guys nowadays don't understand is that the company might give you shit and you have to fight it. No, the inmates should not run the asylum, but the tippy top guys always did that to stay on top and get over. And that's the
Absolutely.
problem. And that's a big problem with wrestling now, man. You don't see that anymore.
But as
CM
Austin,
Punk did it.
no,
Go ahead.
absolutely. But as pointed out in Steve's podcast, Austin's podcast, guys are walking on eggshells because they can easily be replaced. I mean, their jobs are on the
Yes.
line,
And that's the
and
problem with the business. There's no competition, bro. You
there
know,
is. I mean, and to a degree, sometimes I would have to say that, if territories was still around, which in a very small way,
yeah, they
I do.
kind of are, but you're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
gonna
they
make
kind of are.
WWE money. You're not gonna make WWE money
No, no,
anyway.
you're absolutely not. But even Daniel Bryan said one time that even if he were to go back in the Indies, he'd be fine with it because
Yeah, but that's Daniel Bryan, bro.
no,
That's
absolutely,
not guys who want to make real money. That's the problem. Is that, with all due respect, Daniel Bryan said a million times, all I want to do is wrestle. That's fine. I respect that. But other people get in this business to make money and then leave. And you're gonna beat your body up because you want to wrestle. Like I respect that about him, but look at it from the other perspective. Like you gotta also you're beating up your body, so you might as well make as much money as you can. And there's no way Daniel Bryan would have made that money on the Indies. Maybe back in '09 when he said that, but not the fucking 2014 Daniel Bryan money, not WrestleMania main event money.
absolutely.
There's no way, you know?
But again, it goes back to walking on eggshells because a lot of these guys are just afraid to lose their jobs.
I mean,
It's their dream jobs, and if someone were to be like, "Oh, I
yeah,
don't like your stupid script,"
yeah,
they might
yeah.
get backlash for it.
Well, you have to do that
You
though.
have
You
to,
have
yep.
to do
Because
it.
Vince does not like pussies. I can tell you
No,
that much.
exactly, exactly. He does not like pussies, bro. That is a fact. And that's the thing is that it's a different era, and it sucks because you got to do it, man. You got to do it. You have to be careful with it. You have to be political, but you got to do it. So that's the problem. Roman, we'll see what happens. Overall, I'm gonna give the show. I give it a 5. I give it a 4 out of 10. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. The first half was really good. There was a lot of hard work. The booking was atrocious to me, and it was way too long. It just 7 hours. I was gonna go to this show and I didn't, and I feel like if I had gone, I would be dead right now. Because you have to understand something about this show, guys. If you've never been to a WrestleMania, getting out of the parking lot is hell. It
Oh my
is hell.
God, yes, dude.
When I went to WrestleMania in Miami, 90 minutes in the goddamn parking lot, bro. Fuck that.
And you're going again, right?
Oh, I'm going next
Oh,
year.
good luck.
But it okay, but there's a difference though. In for when I was in Miami, we took our own car and parked it there in the parking lot. Whereas in Orlando, we took the bus because they have shuttle buses that you take your car to a different place and they'll shuttle you there. If you're going to WrestleMania, try to find the shuttle buses because you'll avoid the parking problems.
Absolutely. And your
Because they'll
final
bust
rating,
you right there. Yeah.
absolutely. And your final rating is a 5 out of 10. I mean, again,
5 out of 10.
I wouldn't say this was the worst WrestleMania because there have been many of them that have been far worse than this. Again, this wasn't the
Absolutely.
best.
But it was super long too. I think that hurt the show. I
It
really do.
was. It like the crowd was dead. But let us know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Did you guys love the show? Did you guys hate the show? Which matches were your favorite and which matches did you guys just dislike the most? Comment down below and let us know, everybody. Thank you all for watching. This has been Geekdom 101. Check his channel out down in the description below, everybody. Let us know what you guys think. Thank you all for watching once again. Don't forget.
Wait a minute. What do you grade the show?
Me, I would give it a 6.5. There were certain things that, again, the women's match, I really enjoyed the Jericho and Styles match.
Yeah.
The ladder match, and I would have to say the Ambrose Brock Lesnar match to a degree was what brought it in for me. There were certain aspects to each match that really did just bring me in a little more than what I thought would be. Again, like there were certain things, there were certain positions that were supposed to be taken by other superstars. Again, as you said,
What do you
Neville
think about
was
the booking?
no, yeah, absolutely. And Neville was supposed to be in the ladder match. He was supposed to have like certain guys like Cesaro and everybody else incorporated like in different matches and stuff. But again, injuries catch up to you, and injuries can be really horrible. So it wasn't the worst WrestleMania. I'll tell you that much. But
No, it was
it was the
not.
longest I've sat there and watched because I'm sitting there, I'm texting you, I'm watching this. I'm like, good lord, like this is like once like the Rock segment ended, it was like 11 o'clock. I was like, holy shit, they have one more. They
Yeah.
have a main event to do.
Yeah, and we had heard that they asked the satellite companies for an extra hour, so it was 5 hours on television, and with the pre-show, 7 hours. Insane.
It was extremely long. So
Absolutely insane.
again, guys, let us know what you guys think down below. Thank you all for watching once again. I hope you guys enjoyed. Tune in for more, and we'll be seeing you all later. Take it easy, everybody. Peace.